We've been seeing it all wrong. The way we look at women, it's broken. And if you think you're not part of the problem, think again. This isn't just about others. It's about you, me, and how we've all been conditioned. So stick around, because by the end of this video, I guarantee you'll never look at women the same way again. Here's the thing. We live in a world where women are constantly reduced to how they look. From ads to movies to social media, we're bombarded with the same message. Women exist to be admired, desired, and judged. But guess what? That mindset? It's toxic. It affects how we treat women, how women see themselves, and honestly, how we live as a society. The good news? We can unlearn this. We can flip the script. And today, that's exactly what we're gonna do. Think about it. From the moment we're born, we're exposed to messages about how women should be. It's everywhere. TV shows, magazines, social media, and even family conversations. And what's the common theme? Women are admired, praised, or criticized primarily based on how they look. It starts small, harmless, right? A comment here and there about how pretty a little girl is, a compliment on her dress or her hair. These seem innocent enough, but as they pile up, they teach a dangerous lesson: your value is tied to your appearance. Now fast forward a few years. That little girl grows up surrounded by constant pressure to meet impossible beauty standards. She's told she needs to be thin but not too thin, fit but not muscular, pretty but not too sexy, because then she'll be judged for trying too hard. It's a never-ending game she can't win. And the worst part? She starts believing her worth is measured in likes, compliments, and how others perceive her. But here's where it gets tricky. We all play a role in this, often without realizing it. We've been conditioned to notice and comment on a woman's appearance first. Even compliments, like, "You look beautiful today," while well-intentioned, reinforce the idea that her looks are what matter most. When's the last time someone said, "I admire your determination," or "You inspire me with your ideas"? Exactly. This doesn't just affect individual women, it's a collective problem. Women are judged constantly, at work, in social situations, even when they're just walking down the street. The way they dress, the way they move, even the way they smile or don't smile, it's all up for public discussion. And the pressure isn't just external, it seeps into their minds, shaping how they see themselves. Self-esteem takes a hit, anxiety and depression rise. Eating disorders become a silent epidemic. And all because society has decided that a woman's worth should be tied to her physical appearance. This affects men too. You see, when men are conditioned to focus on women's looks, it warps how they approach relationships. They might expect women to look perfect all the time, which is completely unrealistic and unfair. This mindset damages real connection. Instead of seeing women as whole, complex human beings, they're reduced to an image, a fantasy, a checklist of physical traits. And if you're thinking, "But I'm not like that," take a closer look. We've all been guilty of it in some way. Maybe it's a passing thought, a joke, or a comment you didn't think twice about. But that's exactly why it's such a deep-rooted problem. It's become so normalized that we barely notice it anymore. So what do? The first step is recognizing the problem. We can't change what we don't acknowledge. It's uncomfortable, sure. No one likes admitting they've contributed to something toxic. But owning that truth is powerful. It's the beginning of change. Let's dive deeper. How did we get here? What's feeding this cycle of objectification and unrealistic expectations? Media is a huge part of the problem. Think about how women are portrayed in movies, TV shows, and advertising. They're often either the hot sidekick, the damsel in distress, or the seductive villain. Even in roles of power, they're expected to be both commanding and effortlessly beautiful at all times. Social media has taken this to a whole new level. Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat are flooded with filters, beauty hacks, and trends that reinforce unrealistic standards. The pressure to be perfect is constant, and unlike the old days, it's 24/7 now. There's no escaping it. Here's where things hit closer to home. It's not just the media, it's in our daily interactions. Ever noticed how often people comment on a woman's looks? Think about it. How many times have you heard things like, "Wow, you look amazing," versus "Wow, your idea really changed my perspective"? And don't get me wrong, compliments aren't bad. But when they're almost always focused on appearance, it reinforces that appearance is what matters most. It's like telling someone their value is tied to how they look over and over again. This constant focus on appearance can have serious effects on mental health. Studies show that women who experience frequent objectification are more likely to suffer from anxiety, depression, and body image issues. It's not just about self-esteem, it's about feeling like you can never measure up. Worse still, this mindset doesn't just stay in women's heads. It seeps into how they behave. They might avoid speaking up because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. They might stop doing things they love because they're worried about how they'll be judged. It's easy to think this is just a women's issue, but it affects men too. When men are constantly exposed to unrealistic portrayals of women, it creates false expectations. Relationships suffer. Real connection becomes harder to find. Men might struggle to appreciate the depth and complexity of women because they're stuck in a superficial mindset. The result? Shallow connections, unfulfilled relationships, and a society that's less empathetic overall. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Here's the thing, you don't have to be a hero to make a difference. Change happens in the little moments. It starts with catching yourself. When you feel the urge to comment on a woman's appearance, pause. Ask yourself, is there something deeper I can acknowledge? Challenge the toxic talk around you. When a friend makes a disrespectful comment, push back, gently but firmly, and don't underestimate the power of listening. When women talk about their experiences, believe them. Don't dismiss it as overreacting. Every time you choose respect, empathy, and understanding, you chip away at the toxic culture we've built. You create space for something better. And that's what this is all about. Check one, check. So here's where things get real. By now you're probably thinking, okay, I get it, this needs to change. But what can I really do about it? And that's a fair question. The truth is, changing how we see women won't happen overnight. But every big change starts with small steps, and it starts with you. Let's break it down into things you can do right now that will make a difference. This isn't about avoiding eye contact or being overly cautious. It's about shifting your perspective. Next time you see a woman, challenge yourself to see her as a whole person. What's her story? What's her passion? What's the energy she brings into the room? These things matter so much more than how she looks. Notice how often your first thought is about appearance. Be honest with yourself. If your first instinct is to comment on her body, hair, or clothes, pause. Take a second. Reframe that thought. Ask yourself, what would I notice if I wasn't focused on her looks? The more you do this, the easier it becomes. This is a big one. We've all been in situations where someone makes a disrespectful comment about a woman. Maybe it's a joke about her appearance, or someone rating women like they're objects. It's easy to stay quiet, but silence only lets it slide. You don't have to start a fight. You can say something simple like, hey, that's not cool. Or, actually, I think we should talk about something more important than how she looks. It might feel awkward at first, but trust me, people notice. And when one person speaks up, it encourages others to follow. Compliments are powerful. They can build people up or reinforce unhealthy ideas. The next time you want to compliment a woman, think beyond the obvious. Instead of saying, you look beautiful, try, I really admire how hard you've worked on that project. Or, your creativity always inspires me. Compliment her ideas, her work ethic, her kindness, her resilience. These kinds of compliments go deeper. They make people feel seen for who they are, not just how they look. And they create a ripple effect, because once you start focusing on deeper qualities, it shifts your entire mindset. Whether you realize it or not, people are always watching how you act. Friends, family, co-workers, they pick up on the things you say and do. If you're someone who treats women with respect and pushes back on toxic talk, you set the tone for others. And here's the cool part. You don't have to be perfect. Just showing that you're trying to be better is enough to inspire others. You can even share what you're learning. Talk about these things openly. The more we normalize conversations about respect and equality, the less power the toxic mindset has. Here's a wild idea. What if we started being more intentional about the media we consume? We can't avoid everything toxic, but we can choose what we support. Start following creators and brands that promote healthy, positive messages about women. Unfollow accounts that make you feel like appearance is the only thing that matters. When you consume better content, it reshapes how you think. It helps you see women through a more balanced, respectful lens. This might be the most important step of all. Just listen. Talk to the women in your life. Ask them about their experiences. Really listen, without jumping in to explain or defend. Sometimes, all someone needs is for you to hear them out. When you listen, you learn things you'd never realize otherwise. You start to understand just how deep this problem goes, and that understanding changes everything. At the end of the day, it's not about being a hero or trying to save the world. It's about doing your part, no matter how small it seems. Every respectful conversation, every time you choose to see a woman beyond her looks, every time you push back on a toxic comment, it all adds up. Imagine a world where women don't feel pressured to look perfect all the time, where they can walk into a room and be valued for their ideas, their passion, their kindness, not their appearance. Imagine how freeing that would be. That's the world we're trying to build. And here's the best part, you don't have to do it alone. Change happens when we do it together. When more people challenge the toxic norm, it stops being the norm. So, what's next? You've got the awareness now. You see how deep this problem goes. You know how we've all been shaped by it. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? You have two choices. You can go back to how things were before you started this video, or you can be part of something bigger. The choice is yours. So here's the bottom line. The way we've been looking at women needs to change. It's not enough to say, I respect women. We have to show it in how we think, how we talk, how we act. Respect isn't about grand gestures, it's in the little things, the way you listen, the way you speak, the way you challenge the toxic stuff around you, even when it's uncomfortable. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. Because when we start seeing women with eyes of respect, we all win. Society gets better, relationships get stronger, and most importantly, women get to live as they truly are, without the constant pressure to perform. If you're ready to challenge how the world sees women, hit that subscribe button. Let's transform the way we look at the world, together.